This is Abdul Saad, clinical psychologist at Vital Mind Psychology here in Sydney, Australia. And my website is www.vitalmind.com.au. In today's video, I'm going to be continuing with a new series on narcissism, the narcissistic personality disorder, and because there's been such great response to the series on narcissism, which I commenced last year, the 4 videos that I did. And because of your continued support and feedback, I've put together a new series of videos focused on the narcissistic pathology, the narcissist-empath relationship, and in this series also more practical strategies, moving beyond just understanding the narcissist, but practical strategies and insights to help those who are locked into within an intimate relationship with a narcissist, or who are struggling to overcome an intimate relationship with a narcissist. So in today's video, I want to talk about how the narcissist destroys your physical health. And the premise of this video is that narcissists, being in a relationship with a narcissist, especially an intimate romantic relationship, but also a work relationship, if you have a boss who has a narcissistic personality pathology, it is an incredibly stressful experience. And stress is not just psychological. Stress leaves a physical impact upon the body. And in today's video, I want to shine a spotlight on the negative physical health effects narcissists have upon us. Now, narcissists are incredibly toxic and stressful because of the continuous uncertainty of being in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's the oscillation between idealization and evaluation, the gaslighting, the escalation toward intimate partner abuse in terms of emotional or physical violence is incredibly stressful and taxing upon the body. And in terms of human beings, the most profound stress a human can experience is interpersonal stress. The stress that is in the domain of our interpersonal relationships. So a divorce is incredibly stressful. The death of a loved one is incredibly stressful. Being in a non-reciprocal intimate relationship is incredibly stressful. Having a very narcissistic, demanding boss who bullies you is incredibly stressful. And these are the sorts of problems that people seek psychological assistance for. So interpersonal stress is probably the most profound source of stress for human beings, more stressful than physical stressors. Now, the toxic effects of being in a relationship with a narcissist, the toxic physical effects, I'm going to break down into 2 broad effects. The first one is that a long-term relationship with a narcissist locks the individual, the other partner, who is usually the empath, the narcissist-empath dynamic. It locks the other individual into a pattern of chronic inflammation. Because of the uncertainty and the inherent lack of equilibrium in the relationship, can be thought of as a parasitic relationship, where the narcissist is acting as a parasite. The narcissist is acting to extract maximal energy from their partner, in the case we're talking about from the empath. And when you're locked into this sort of a pattern with another human being, a chronic pattern like this, it places the body into something called sympathetic dominance, or into the fight or flight mode. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is one branch of what's called the autonomic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is really fight-flight, activation, dealing with fear, dealing with stress. It's the part of the nervous system that's going to activate our heart rate, that's going to increase our rate of breathing, that's going to increase blood pressure. And it's also going to increase inflammation, as I will be discussing in a moment. And we can understand why the empath in a relationship with a narcissist would be locked into this chronically activated stress response of what we call sympathetic dominance, where the sympathetic nervous system is chronically switched on. Because the empath has to be constantly vigilant to what the narcissist says or does. They try to anticipate the narcissist's next move. They're bamboozled by the narcissist's push-pull behaviors, which again locks them into a chronic state of sympathetic nervous system dominance. Now, this sympathetic nervous system activation increases inflammation in the body. And the body, if this inflammation is chronic, will begin to produce inflammatory molecules called cytokines. So these inflammatory proteins which the nervous system produces. And amongst those are, for example, interleukin-6, TNF-alpha. And these, when these are found to be elevated in the blood, these are strong markers of an inflammatory response in the body, and stress, chronic stress that is not being switched off, and inflammation go hand in hand. Now, these inflammatory molecules affect every organ and tissue in the body. And we can see the sorts of inflammatory diseases, which in my experience, empaths tend to be very vulnerable to and tend to have in larger numbers compared to other patients I see. So if these inflammatory molecules, these inflammatory cytokines, which the body is pumping out, the immune system is pumping out because of the chronic stress, if they affect the brain, we can see neurological disorders, we can see multiple sclerosis, we can see chronic fatigue syndrome. If the inflammatory molecules affect the thyroid, we might see things like Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, Graves' disease. If the inflammatory molecules are attacking the bones, then we might see disorders or diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. If it's the muscles, fibromyalgia is very common amongst empaths. If it's the skin, things like psoriasis. If it's the gastrointestinal tract, illnesses such as Crohn's and colitis. And if it's the blood, illnesses such as lupus. Now, individuals in long-term relationships with narcissists tend to, in my clinical experience, experience elevated rates of these sorts of inflammatory illnesses. So to summarize, the first effect, the physical effect of being in a relationship with a narcissist, especially an intimate partner relationship, is an increased inflammatory response, which sets the stage for inflammatory disease. The second major thing I've observed that affects the empath locked in to an intimate relationship with a narcissist is eventually a slowing down of the metabolic rate. And I have especially observed this in female empaths as they approach or reach middle age. So as the stress response intensifies, the body, as a defense maneuver, adaptively slows down the metabolic rate as an adaptive mechanism to deal with the stress. And this can manifest as hypothyroidism, as brain fog, as fatigue, as weight gain and trouble losing weight, as the metabolic rate drops under the pressure of the chronic stress. Now, one of the things this produces psychologically for the empath is what I call a spellbinding effect. Chronic inflammation and a slowdown metabolic rate, put those two things together, and the person begins to become increasingly psychologically out of touch, increasingly spellbound, increasingly unable to fully appreciate the reality of their situation, and increasingly trapped within the orbit of the narcissist. Now, eventually, this will manifest as a metabolic disorder in many people, and we see the weight gain, the high blood pressure, the diabetes are all common when an empath has been locked into an intimate relationship with a narcissist over years. Now, of course, the narcissist will use the opportunity of the deteriorating health of their partner, will use it against them to devalue them, emotional abuse, taunts, put-downs, convincing them that their physical health problems are evidence of their inherent defectiveness, unworthiness, unlovability, unattractiveness. So it's critically important for those locked into an abusive relationship with a narcissist to focus on improving your physical health, to break free of the spellbinding effect of the narcissist, because in my experience, empaths are notoriously good at ignoring the needs of their body. Their energetic fields are so open and porous to giving to other people that they get into trouble by neglecting the body, often leaving it to a point where they're being diagnosed with all sorts of illnesses and being put on all sorts of treatments. So I hope that in this video I have inspired you to think about the health effects of being in a long-term relationship with a narcissist, and to use this information to begin to come up with a plan to get your physical health back on track, using whatever supports are available to you within your local environment. In the next video in this new series on narcissism, I'm going to be discussing the pathological core belief the empath must face if they are to grow and break free of the narcissist. I look forward to reading your comments. Please subscribe to the channel. When you subscribe, please click on that bell icon so that you know when I've uploaded a video. And please check out my website, www.vitalmind.com.au. Thank you very much, and I hope to catch you soon. All the best.